There is a label that society rushes to place on the man who walks alone. They call him antisocial. They call him avoidant. They whisper that he is broken, that he is hiding from the world because he lacks the social skills to participate in it, or that he is suffering from a pathology that needs to be cured. The modern psychological complex is obsessed with the idea of connection, treating the desire for solitude as a symptom of a diseased mind. They look at the wolf standing apart from the flock, and they diagnose him with a defect, because they cannot comprehend that leaving the herd might be a choice, born not of fear, but of a superior understanding of reality. They see your silence as emptiness. They see your distance as weakness, but they are looking at the world through the lens of idealism, while you are looking at it through the lens of survival. If we look at the life of the solitary man through the eyes of Niccolò Machiavelli, the greatest realist in history, the diagnosis shifts dramatically. Machiavelli would not look at the loner and see a patient in need of therapy. He would look at the loner and see a strategist who has learned the most brutal and essential lesson of existence, that the world is not safe, that people are not inherently good, and that trust is a currency that creates inflation the more you print it. The theory I am proposing to you today is that the loner is not a personality type. It is a biological and strategic adaptation. It is a response to early data. It is what happens when a human being survives the collision with the true nature of mankind and decides, quite rationally, that the only way to win the game is to stop playing by rules that were written to enslave him. To understand this, we must redefine what we mean by trauma. In the soft language of modern discourse, trauma is treated as a wound that hampers you, a crack in the glass that needs to be glued back together so you can function like everyone else. But let us look at it darkly. What if trauma is not a blinder, but a lens? What if the traumatic event, whether it was the betrayal of a parent, the cruelty of peers, or the deceit of a first love, was not a moment where you were broken, but a moment where you were woken up? Most people walk through life in a sleepwalking state, protected by a veil of naivety. They believe that if they are good, others will be good to them. They believe that authority figures are benevolent. They believe that loyalty is the default setting of the human heart. This is the idealist's delusion. The trauma survivor has had this delusion violently ripped away. You saw the face behind the mask. You realized, perhaps at 6 years old, perhaps at 16, that the people who were supposed to protect you were capable of destroying you. You realize that love often comes with fine print, and that fine print usually demands your submission. In that moment of pain, you received an education that most men do not receive until it is too late. You were given a crash course in Machiavellian reality. Machiavelli wrote, "It is necessary for him who lays out a state and arranges laws for it to presuppose that all men are evil, and that they are always going to act according to the wickedness of their spirits whenever they have free scope." The average man thinks this is cynicism. The trauma survivor knows this is merely a safety manual. Therefore, your isolation is not a retreat. It is a fortification. When a kingdom realizes it is surrounded by hostile forces, it does not open its gates and hold a festival. It raises the drawbridge, digs a moat, and puts archers on the walls. This is what you have done with your psyche. The avoidant attachment style, as psychologists call it, is simply the strategic logic of a prince who knows his borders are threatened. You learned that proximity equals danger. You learned that the closer someone gets to you, the more damage they can do. A stranger can only annoy you. A friend can betray you. A lover can destroy you. The logic follows perfectly. To minimize the probability of destruction, one must minimize the number of people allowed inside the walls. This brings us to the concept of the strategic loner. The strategic loner is not hiding in his room because he is afraid of the world. He is operating from a position of autarky, total self-rule. In the chaotic geopolitics of social interaction, he has declared himself a sovereign state. Consider the immense energy the average man wastes on managing the emotions of others. He is constantly scanning for approval, adjusting his behavior to fit the tribe, suppressing his true thoughts to avoid conflict, and performing a character that isn't him. This is an exhausting expenditure of resources with very little return on investment. The survivor, having learned that the tribe will turn on him the moment he shows weakness, decides to conserve those resources. You have developed what we can call hypervigilance, but let us rebrand it as high-resolution social intelligence. Because you had to navigate a minefield, perhaps a volatile household, or a treacherous social environment, you learn to read the air. You notice the micro-expressions that others miss. You hear the aggression hidden in a joke. You smell the shift in the atmosphere before the storm hits. This is a superpower, but it is also a curse. It makes socializing draining because while others are just having a drink and chatting, you are processing 1,000 data points of threat assessment per second. You see the fake smiles. You see the envy in their eyes. You see the unspoken hierarchies being negotiated. To sit in a room full of people pretending to like each other is, for you, an exercise in tolerating nausea. It is not that you cannot connect. It is that you see too clearly to connect with illusions. Machiavelli advised the prince that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The loner embodies this intuitively. You have learned to become unreadable. This silence that surrounds you, which makes others so uncomfortable, is your greatest weapon. In a world of noise, where everyone is broadcasting their every thought and weakness on social media, the man who stays silent becomes a blank canvas. People project their fears and their fantasies onto him. They wonder what he is thinking. They wonder if he is judging them. They wonder if he knows something they don't. And usually, he does. By withdrawing your presence, you increase your value. By starving them of information, you maintain control. This is not social anxiety. This is counterintelligence. There is a profound freedom in this disillusionment. Once you accept the Machiavellian truth, that self-interest drives almost all human behavior, you stop being disappointed. You stop expecting your friends to be loyal out of honor. You expect them to be loyal only as long as it aligns with their interests. You stop expecting your partner to love you unconditionally. You understand that love is a transaction of needs. This sounds cold to the romantic, but to the survivor, it is liberating. It allows you to navigate the world without the constant heartbreak that plagues the naive. You are no longer shocked when the knife goes into your back. You are only surprised that it took this long, and usually, you are already out of range. However, society fights back against this independence. The collective hates the individual who does not need it. This is why they shame you. This is why they label your self-sufficiency as a disorder. They need you to be needy. A man who needs validation is easily controlled. You just give him a little praise and he obeys. A man who needs belonging is easily manipulated. You just threaten him with exile and he complies. But the man who has survived the fire and built a life where he needs nothing from them, he is dangerous. He cannot be bribed with compliments because he knows his own worth. He cannot be threatened with loneliness because he has made loneliness his sanctuary. He is the glitch in the matrix of social control. The pressure to heal often feels like pressure to capitulate. Well-meaning therapists and friends will tell you that you need to let people in, that you need to be vulnerable, that you need to trust again. They are asking you to dismantle your fortress in a world that has not ceased to be a war zone. They are asking the veteran to walk back onto the battlefield without his armor, because the armor looks scary to the civilians. But you know better. The Machiavellian perspective on healing is not to become soft again. It is to become the master of your own defenses. It is to ensure that the drawbridge is well oiled so that you can lower it, but only when you choose, for whom you choose, and for as long as you choose. It is about agency. The trauma survivor who embraces his nature transforms from a victim into an architect. You stop looking at your solitude as a prison sentence and start seeing it as a laboratory. In the silence, you build. You build your mind, filling it with knowledge that the distracted masses ignore. You build your body, forging a vessel that commands respect. You build your resources, ensuring that you never have to beg. Newton worked in isolation. Tesla thought in solitude. The greatest strategists, philosophers, and creators of history were men who understood that deep work and deep insight can only happen when you disconnect from the hive mind. Your trauma forced you out of the hive, and while it was painful at first, it gave you the opportunity to become something distinct, something singular. Let us address the dark night of the soul that every loner faces. There are moments, late at night, when the silence feels heavy, when the biological imperative to belong screams in your DNA. This is the test. This is the moment where the weak man breaks and runs back to the toxic ex, or back to the fake friends, or back to the addictive habits that numb the void. But the Machiavellian loner endures the siege. He sits with the void and stares into it until the void blinks first. He realizes that the pain of loneliness is simply the withdrawal symptom of an addiction to external validation. Once that addiction is broken, on the other side of that pain lies a peace that the courtier and the socialite will never know. It is the peace of absolute sovereignty. You must understand that your ability to detach is a form of power that terrifies those who rely on emotional entanglement. Consider the narcissist. The narcissist is a predator who feeds on reaction. They need you to get angry, to cry, to argue, to plead. When they encounter a trauma survivor who has mastered the art of the Machiavellian grey rock, they panic. You do not react. You observe. You see their manipulation not as an emotional crisis, but as a clumsy strategy, because you have already survived the worst. Their petty games cannot touch you. You look at them with the cold detachment of a scientist, looking at a bacteria under a microscope. You have become anti-fragile. The chaos that breaks others only makes you sharper. This path requires a ruthless inventory of your life. It means accepting that you will never be the life of the party, and realizing that being the life of the party is a degrading role for a grown man anyway. It means accepting that your circle will be tiny, perhaps non-existent for periods of time. It means accepting that you will be misunderstood, and that you must not waste a single calorie of energy trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to not understanding you. Machiavelli warned that there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. You are introducing a new order to your own life. You are overthrowing the tyranny of social expectation. The Machiavelli theory of the loner posits that your trauma was an initiation. It was a rite of passage that burned away the boy and revealed the man. It stripped you of the comforting lies that keep society functioning and left you with the cold, hard tools of survival. You are not damaged goods. You are a combat veteran in a world of children. You carry the scars, yes, but scars are just skin that has become tougher than it was before. So when they ask you why you are so quiet, why you are so distant, why you don't come out to play their games, do not apologize. Do not look down in shame. Look them in the eye with that cold, blue, knowing gaze that only a survivor possesses. Understand that they are afraid of you because they sense, on a primal level, that you do not need them. And in a world where everyone is begging to be needed, the man who needs nothing is the king. Do not try to go back to sleep. You have seen the truth. You have seen the strings on the puppets. You have built your castle. Now sit on your throne, defend it, and remember that in the grand chessboard of life, the piece that moves alone is often the one that delivers the checkmate. Your isolation is not your prison. It is your empire. Rule it.